Hey there! For this animation I chose to feature Dusk and Sylph, a pair of chiropters or ancient bats from the book Darkwing, the fourth book and a sort of prequel in the Silverwing universe. I wanted to give this animation a traditional cell animation look, despite being animated digitally with Adobe Animate. So I'll just go over how I did it using After Effects. First step, drop shadows. The first thing to think about is how traditional animations were brought together. After roughs were finalized, each drawing would be painted onto a cell, which was then photographed over a background. This caused a slight shadow behind the painted part of the cell, so for each subject I'm just going to add a slight drop shadow with an opacity of about 50%, the distance at 5 and the size at 2. I also had the angle at about 90 or so degrees. These are all technical little things and you can change them to your liking, but I'll say that I personally prefer having a harder edge shadow because it shows the quote cell is very close to the background, like how it would normally appear. Second step, the blur effect. Since 2D animation was traditionally done by taking photos with a camera, the images wouldn't have been 100% crisp. They would have had a very slight out of focus effect. In order to achieve this, create a new adjustment layer and drag over a blur effect. Either the camera lens blur or a Gaussian blur will work. You want to make the blurriness a very low percentage and the opacity lower down as well. You may want to play around with it until you get to how you like it. I think I ended up with a 3% blur radius with 30% opacity. Now just above that layer, I'm going to add slight sharpening just to add to that classic look of it. All you need to do is make another adjustment layer, find and drag over the sharpen effect and change it to whatever you prefer. I ended up going with 20 for the amount. Number 4 is noise. Next up is adding noise, grain, or fuzz, whatever you want to call it. I really like this effect. It gives the whole thing that much more texture even if it's subtle. I tend to go between 5 and 8%. For this one I'm going with 7% for the amount. But again, whatever your preference is, go with it. Number 5, Chromatic Aberration. Now for the final touch, I'm going to add a slight Chromatic Aberration. But when you search it up in After Effects, it gives one that doesn't give the effect I'm looking for. So instead, after you make the adjustment layer, search for glitch instead and use the digital glitch effect. For this, you just want to bring the distortion rate down to 0 and the color distortion down to around 5, or again, whatever you prefer. And here it is. I'll show some comparisons as well. Thank you for watching and I hope this helped. See you later.